Okay, I keep on getting up on stage, and I don't like talking in front of people, and that's her job, and y'all have heard that before. And Graham gave me a hanky. Whit, you good, dear? Okay, I'll hold on to it just in case. That's kind of an inside joke. I'm not supposed to do those. I had the privilege of being back at the back of the auditorium every time the kids sang, running soundboard. And I don't think Ken and I didn't make that plan. It just kind of happened. I have a little history there. And so I was fortunate enough to have a role. I thought I was going to be just a roadie and carry stuff and do whatever. But at some point, the Lord sticks you places. And it was a blessing. But I had a real hard time tonight sitting there. Because I was back at the soundboard. You know, I got to move and smile and praise the Lord. And it's hard for me to sit there after a week of listening to these kids perform these songs and read and listen to that special that was up on the screen. Every night I had a different emotion at a different time. And Whitney made me cry multiple times. That's the inside joke. Got my mama's eyes, so it's okay. But if you're sitting there and you're listening to those songs, and I told the kids one night, if you listen to what you're singing and you're paying attention to it, there's no way that the Lord isn't going to grab your heart. And it was special every time. It cracks me up as a Christian to be amazed when God shows up. Ken lost his mind, okay? We got there, and they had all the equipment, and Chad was checking all the equipment in and stuff that we had to haul from place to place every day. And Natalie's right. Our setup, I counted, and I know I missed a bunch of stuff, Ken. There was 205 separate items that got touched every day. We broke down one time and had it loaded on the bus in 30 minutes, 35 minutes, something like that. Close, right? We kept setting records. Ken actually said, hey, y'all need to be careful. You're going to break something. You know, I know you like these records, but just slow down. But from being able to set that up, because I was looking at it going, oh, gosh, there is no way. But we never didn't manage to get it set up, have it all ready, and do the performance. Every day we went out to do some sightseeing, which were only two. It didn't rain. The other ones it did. Okay. We were going one morning, can't remember which morning it was, and it was pouring. And we all, talking on the coach, not the bus. I don't owe anybody $1. It's a coach, okay, not a bus. But it was raining, and we had prayer. And amazingly enough, it quit raining by the time we needed to get off the bus and unload all the stuff. I don't know if y'all heard, but half of the kids were sick. Ken was sick. My wife got sick. There was a bunch of that going around. Chad ended up being sick before we got all the way back. But every performance, the Lord provided strength to the voices. And why we are so stupid as Christians to not expect Him to show up in mighty ways. It thrills me. I've told my wife a couple times, I said, I don't need to have any more vacations that aren't mission trips. So, but y'all don't have any ideas, because then I won't get to go. So y'all just keep having your vacations, because I'm going to go with the kids. We're going to have fun time, because it's so cool to see the Lord show up. And y'all were a blessing to me in many ways. So I think that's it. I'm probably way over my time, so.
Jay and I got to go on this mission trip, and man, what a blessing we had. Before we went through, one of the girls talked about a series of Bible studies, and one of the Bible studies was about Elijah and how he was looking for God, and the winds came, and God wasn't in the wind, and the earthquake came, and the fire and everything, but God was in the still small voice. And Tim talked about a lot of the stuff because we talked about it all week. We saw God's still small voice this week. We didn't have a Billy Graham altar call and see hundreds of people come to Christ. And while we know we left an impact on Glasgow, we didn't see Scotland turn around for Christ last week. But we saw something much bigger than that. And what was bigger than that was that still small voice. And whether it was the weather, never having to unload or load equipment in the rain, or whether it was the sickness, or whether it was a dress that had a mishap with an iron, and we were able to recover through it because we had a sick child that we were able to shuffle dresses around and get someone to work. Thanks for your sacrifice, Kara, of being sick. But it was the still small voice of God that just reached down and touched us in every place. And I know that's what I needed, and I hope the kids got that, because I keep calling them kids, and I call them students all week. I worked so hard at calling them students. Because that's what we need to know, is that God is a God of all the miracles and all the wonderful things, but God is the God of everyday life, and it's that still small voice that we need to embrace every day as we go to school and work and everywhere else. And I was just so privileged to be able to take your students and go to a country and have the wonderful time and experience that still small voice.
Hi there. I always operate under the premise that there might be one person in the room if I'm going to say something that may not know the lingo. So there's two things I want to say tonight. First of all, most of you know that the youth ministry's verse is 1 Timothy 4:12, and there might be somebody here who doesn't know about that. The choir is called 412 Praise, and one of the teachers at one of the schools asked me what that meant, and I said it has to do with this verse in the Bible that talks about how, when Paul said to Timothy, don't let people look down on you because you're young, but be an example to the others in life, in love, in purity, and it goes on that way. And what I would tell you tonight is that these students rocked out 1 Timothy 4:12 on this trip. I saw Hutch in here earlier. They so did it. They just were a living example of that in every way. There was one night at one of the concerts that a lady came up to me, and it was a school concert, and she was there at one of the primary schools to see one of the little kids sing, because their little choir would sing with our choir and sing Psalm 91. And this lady came to me, and as Graham has told us, the people in Scotland are not very emotional. This lady came to me. She was so excited she could hardly contain herself. And what she said was that she didn't go to church. First of all, she didn't know what to expect from the program. She'd just come to see this child sing. And she wasn't there. She didn't know anything about the church, involvement or anything like that. And so she didn't know what to expect from the program. And what she said, I don't go to church anywhere. She said, but I've never seen such joy anywhere. She said, if I could go to a church that had this, I would go every Sunday. So you guys, these guys, not the adults, not anything, these guys brought joy, the joy of the Lord, to someone in Scotland, to multiple people in Scotland who had divine appointments that they didn't know about, and brought the joy of the Lord to people who did not have that joy. And so the second thing that I would tell you is that if they can do it, and do it so well, then every one of you can do it too. And there is no reason not to. Whether the mission field is your workplace, whether the mission field is a place of service here in the church, whether it's a mission trip like the junior high mission trip this summer to Wilmot, or any of the multiple trips that our students take, that camp, children's camp. I mean, there are so many opportunities. So what I would say to you is simply one word: go.
Thank you. So I couldn't really add anything to what's been said tonight. We had a wonderful time. Thank you to Ken and all the dozens of people that worked and prayed. And what's interesting to me is that if you're a parent or the adult responsible for one of the children on the stage tonight, be proud of them, because they did a good job. And if you're an old dog like me and you've been on so many mission trips, you can't remember what they all were. I would challenge you tonight, as we challenged each other, I think the last night of the trip, that if you're really a Christian, that this earth is not your home. So the mission trip really begins again tomorrow.